Okay, we're back again, and we have an elected official, as we're trying to do every single week, Dr. Debra Robinson from the school board in Marion. Welcome aboard, and we have some other guests that's going to be with us on the second half. And there's about 3, and they're going to be sharing, come closer, some more information.
Good morning, everyone. It's Marion Dozier here again with TYS Media and CocoWire.net. And yes, we do have some other guests who are going to come on after Mayor Masters finishes talking to school board member Debra Robinson. But we are going to be talking about history, about schools, about the future, and what we're going to be doing with some of the buildings, especially one in particular, in our school district here in Palm Beach County. But Mayor Masters, let me turn this over to you because I know you want to go ahead and get started with Dr. Robinson, and then we will bring in the other guests who are here from the Roosevelt Industrial Roosevelt High School National Alumni Association and Friends. Second part.
Okay. I'm just from Pasadena, California. I don't have all those accolades and names behind them, so we got some big shots in the studio today. Dr. Robinson, welcome to the radio station and to the community who are listening to you all throughout Palm Beach County.
Thank you for having me.
It's always a pleasure. You know, I was thinking coming up here that I think I have known you longer than any other elected official in the state of Florida, period.
Okay. Like, I don't even know what to do with that information, okay?
Well, put it like this. I remember you used to come to church in New Macedonia every Sunday. That was late 80s. I remember that very well. Remember that?
Yeah.
Yeah, that was before I got gray head and bald, and before I ran for office, before I became
We're
a
not
bishop.
even going to talk about those days.
All
Okay.
those things. And you were community active. Actually, I knew before you ran for the school board. We want to talk about the hot issue as relates to the Roosevelt Middle School. I know you got several issues, but we're kind of limited on time. So 2 issues. One is the Roosevelt situation and school security. So if you don't mind, take the Roosevelt thing. You know I'm always talking about school security.
I know you're going to talk about school security. That's my issue. Yep. So I think we're talking about the historic Roosevelt High School, correct?
Yes, we are.
So, I've been on the school board for 18 and a half years, right? And thank you so much. I need your prayers. So, and in that time, it seems to me that we've held like 10 town hall meetings on the future of what the school district now calls Roosevelt Full Service Center. Each and every time, the community was very clear that they wanted to have an academic program there that brought back the academic prowess of that historic site. And so finally, thanks to the voters of Palm Beach County, we are going to be able to do something. Hopefully, everyone will consider it great. So, we had a penny sales tax in 2016, and of that money, just about $10 million was allocated for that site, right? So over the years, I've kind of collected this input from community members, as I mentioned, and so I've taken that information and turned it into, quote, the plan. And we've had some community meetings around this plan as well. So what the plan is 4 pieces. One, the Black History Museum to be located at that site. 2, a community access media center, which essentially would be, I'm actually hoping that the city of West Palm will help us with maintaining that media center, right? 3, that we will restore the gymnasium, not as a gym, but as a multi-purpose cultural site, right? So that people could like lease it for receptions or whatever. School district could use it for professional development activities. Nearby schools could come and use it for whatever activities they have and so forth, right? And then the academic program, we are looking at putting in an academy. So not a full school, right? We do not have enough money and $10 million to build a full school. But what we're looking at is replicating some of the models that I've seen across the country with academies. So, and the academies that we're looking at will be architecture, engineering, and technology.
Almost STEM, almost.
Yeah, almost.
Yeah, almost.
But
yeah,
I that term is so overused. I don't even want to use it. So, but so this would be high school, right? And so this would be an academy where students from surrounding schools would come for part of their day to just get those specific classes, right? So it would be a high tech facility. So that's the plan. What has held it up, because, as I said, the monies are allocated, what's held it up, quite honestly, is the museum. Right?
In what sense?
Well, because in the course of me trying to figure out how to advocate properly, I came to learn that you need to have a museum planner, right? And so the monies, and I want to... while I'm thinking about, thank Senator Bobby Powell, because as we discussed before, Senator Powell has filed multiple appropriations bills for monies to do state funds to do the get money to get a museum planner and to start the initial processes so that it will be done properly. So in my mind, then we have to figure out what this museum will be like how many square feet,
like,
right?
Yeah,
before we build the school around it. What I don't want to do is build this school and then try to figure out how to squeeze in the museum. So that's where we are. As we speak, Senator Powell's appropriations request is on the governor's desk. Keep your fingers crossed. I'm hoping that the governor does not veto it. If he does not,
made it to his desk for the last not this particular governor, but a governor's desk for
it made
the last
it to the
3
governor's
years?
desk last year and got vetoed by the then governor. So hopefully this governor will not veto it. Senator Powell had to fight hard to get it in there. It's $150,000, as I recall. So that we can do some proper planning, right?
And then all of those things, all 4 of those elements will be at that Roosevelt building,
at that site. Now, the other thing, since you said building, let me say this. So in the course of all these community input meetings, the initial position that I was hearing from the community, many alumni, was that we could not tear down any of that building, right? That was just not something that... is really going to take us into the future. I mean, if somebody just threw a bunch of money on the table, we could do it, right? Like, that's not a problem.
Tear it down and replace it with something similar.
I'm sorry now?
You're saying that the hope is not to tear down the building.
No. Let me be clear what I'm saying.
Okay.
So what the community was saying 10 years ago was no. You cannot tear down any of this building. Well, we didn't have money on the table to say, it's like a 50 to 75% increase in cost to restore. And that's without unforeseen circumstances when you get in there, right? I went through this exercise with UB Kinsey. You get in there and you find other things, and the price tag, jumps really high. So we were at a standstill for many years, and then, of course, the economy dried up, blah, blah, blah. So, but in recent meetings, then we came to this agreement that we would maintain the gym, so we would not demolish the gym, that we would maintain the name, and that we would try to maintain the frontage on Tamron, and that we would have a high-end academic program. And so that's where we're going. It's my expectation that the rest of the building will come down.
Dr. Robinson, for me, ever since I've been here, that's been an issue. I remember Herman McCray, I think he did go to jail at the school board because he talked more than the time allowed it. And there's been so many activists down through the years, and it looks like every few years this comes back up, the Roosevelt School, and people come up with all options and alternatives. My question is, what's going on in the building now? Is there anything at all? Nothing's going on at all? So it's just a building?
Correct.
Okay. So is there a problem with the building being a historic site the way it is, just there, period, without doing anything?
If it's declared historic, you mean?
Yes. What I'm saying is, is there any irreparable harm to keep the building as is, period?
It's not usable.
Okay.
Because of, with the condition of it?
Yeah, the
But
condition
it hasn't been
of
usable in a long time. It's just been there.
And it's deteriorating. Day after day.
Is there a way to renovate the building to a point that it could maybe be used, or either be a historic site, and people can visit the building and see what it was like during the segregation days, when that was probably the last school that was segregated, and that's probably the only school that African Americans went to? Is there any way that can be done?
You put enough money on the table, anything can be done. But I'm not fighting that fight. I have fought that fight. And that has been at a standstill for a decade because of that position. I'm ready to move into the future, and I want to be crystal clear, right? I'm ready to move into the future. I need my children to be able to get these high-end academic programs that prepare them to take off, right, and bring back that prowess that used to exist on that campus, right? We're going to save the gym. We're going to save the name. We're going to try to keep the frontage on Tamron. We will have a Black History Museum, right?
I understand. Exactly what you're saying, and I'm not saying that's my position one way or the other, but I do know in other cities, for example, in Atlanta, Georgia, the Ebenezer Baptist Church, old buildings, been there for many years, but they found a way to preserve it and at the same time build a new church right across the street. And they still have the old one. And they use it, people come see where Dr. King, and all the King family. They found a way.
They waited for King to die that happened too, right?
But as you say, it's going to take a lot more money that the school board doesn't have.
Correct.
So suppose someone would do like the president is doing with the wall, go out and get private donors and come back and say, we got the money. Now what?
You put enough money on the table, we can do anything.
Okay.
Okay, but I'm going to tell you what, my husband's a psychiatrist, and he calls that magical thinking, okay? And as I said, they waited for King to die to put money on the table for Ebenezer, okay?
Well, the school
I'm not interested in that.
The school has died, so maybe now that the school is up, we'll put money to keep it there if they want it that bad or whatever.
Okay, 15 years we've been having this conversation. I'm just telling you.
And 15 years people have been fighting to maintain it, to keep it there for whatever reason in that community. And like you said, you're going through that fight.
Not one fried fish dinner. Okay, come on with me now. Come on with me. I just went through this in Delray. Okay, I have with Delray Full Service. If you pay attention to my work, every school board meeting I give Black history facts. Right. I fight for history. I have come to love and appreciate history. Right, and I appreciate the history on each of those campuses, and I understand what those buildings represent. Right, but it's my job, right, to educate children, and I need the buildings to be usable to do so.
I understand what you're saying.
Okay,
I understand, but I also understand there's two sides of every coin.
Three. It's three sides to every story, right?
Three sides. Okay. Well, I said coin. I didn't say story. I said
the true. Coin. That's what my mama called it.
Okay. Let me transition briefly. We got a couple more minutes to before we go to our other guest. What's going on and what's happening and what improvements that you can talk about as relates to school security in Palm Beach County?
I'm glad you said what I can talk about. So,
yes.
Well, we have really expanded our police force, right? You will see a lot of work being done on campuses this summer, and a lot of that work is security-related work.
Okay.
I'm trying to think what I could talk about. So, we're hardening up the facilities, making sure we have single points of entry.
Which is great.
Yeah. Yeah. And the challenge really is to do it and to not make the school look or feel like a prison.
Yes.
Yeah. So, yeah, that's what we're doing. We do not have metal detectors.
That's what you can talk about.
That's what I could talk about. Yeah, you're right.
I didn't mention metal detectors.
I know, but
you know
I'm
where I stand with that for years.
Yep.
And at some point, you'll probably see me with a picket sign demonstrating, we want metal detectors now. No.
So, but you need to ask the students what we have.
I'm relaxing.
You should ask the students what we have.
Okay.
Okay.
And they
because it's unannounced.
Okay. And we just want to make sure that we have the best, the maximum, or whatever we need to make sure that our children are as safe and secure as possible.
I agree.
And that's right.
But at the same time, like I said, so the challenge is to make sure that we're not making it like a prison, right?
Okay.
So,
but neither do we want to make it like a cemetery either.
Yeah. Okay.
Okay.
But hold on now. Let's talk about the rest of the community, talking about the cemetery. Now, we're going to start opening up cans of worms now.
I'm just saying, I'd rather for it to look like a prison than to have 20 or 30 children shot and killed. And
I'd rather have it be a high-end academic program that is safe, and the children don't even realize, right, how safe they are.
Okay,
right?
I don't know what you're doing, and you can't talk about it publicly. I still say that our airports, our libraries, our public buildings, except for the schools, have metal detectors. Only way you can walk in, you got to go through the detector. But anyway, and you guys have it at the school board, right? Don't you have to walk through a metal detector?
Yeah, they do.
Okay, so I think the schools should get them at some point. And I know you will continue to fight to making the schools as safe and secure as possible.
Yep.
And one day I'm going to walk through a metal detector at the school. Watch. Marion, we got some more guests. Thank you, Dr. Robinson.
I guess it's your radio show. You can do that to me. Okay.
No, you're with me now on the metal detectors.
Yeah, we're good.
We're together on that. Okay, we're transitioning to other guests.
And the other guests, what they're here to talk about is related to what Dr. Robinson has been talking about already, and that is the future of the Roosevelt High School campus in West Palm Beach. But I want to fill in a little background before I bring on our two guests about what their reasoning and support is for saving that school. And we have to start with segregation, ladies and gentlemen. Even though it was outlawed by the U.S. Supreme Court in 1954, segregation continued in Palm Beach County until 1970, when the last segregated senior class graduated from Roosevelt High School in West Palm Beach. Roosevelt opened in 1951 and graduated its first class that year, and it had opened as a replacement for the first black high school in Palm Beach County, Industrial High School, which, when it opened in West Palm Beach in 1917, was the first high school for African Americans. Its last class graduated in 1950, okay, and it exists today as the UB Kinsey Palmview Elementary School of the Arts, which is located in the historic Northwest neighborhood of West Palm Beach. So, Roosevelt and Industrial High Schools were among Palm Beach County's first segregated high schools, and both still exist. Though Roosevelt is no longer a school, as Dr. Robinson has said, and the guests you're about to hear from now are with the Industrial Roosevelt High School National Alumni Association and Friends. Cora Stutzdale Perry is the president of the nonprofit, and Gwen Ferguson is the secretary of the nonprofit, and they want to ensure, as Dr. Robinson does, that the building is preserved and it is open to options that have been pushed over the years. So, Cora Perry, Gwen Ferguson, welcome to South Florida Sunday. Thank you for coming. Thank you. Now, Dr. Robinson has already told us that the school is not in use right now, though it has been for many years, even after it, stopped educating. But one thing I want to know from you guys, why is it so important to save this bricks and mortar, the building itself? I mean, if the school district rebuilt another school on that site, would y'all be open to that? Or is it very important that that particular school remain?
Yeah. Let me preference with saying that we appreciate
Cora Perry.
We appreciate Dr. Robinson and all the hard work that she has done, and we want to continue her work.
Yes.
But we would like to have the school preserved. And it is because it's in the present state, because it's a beacon in our community. And we understand the challenge, and we understand the community and how the community feel about that. So many of the businesses and all of the various things that we have had in Palm Beach County is gone. We only have our schools and we have our church. And there are so many children and students that graduated from that school. And therefore, we need to be able to have something to represent us as we participated in the community and as, black, families and children. I also want to say that we understand that to preserve and restore the school, it is quite costly. Yeah. But we also want to say that have been done for other high schools that are not African American.
And don't have that historical significance.
Right.
Yeah.
So what we would like to do is to assist Dr. Robinson, come to the table, and see how we can help and what we can do to preserve the school. The community for many, many years have said, yes, we want to preserve the school. But I don't think anybody has come to Dr. Robinson and said, okay, we're going to help. We're going to fight to get the money somehow so that we can preserve the school. And I also understand that it may not be up to where it needs to be, but we need to know for sure that it could never be up to what it could be before we can say, yes, let's do something else.
Does y'all's organization support what Dr. Robinson and others want to do? That is, create,
Definitely.
Yes.
We want services there. There have been the school has given so much to the students and to the community, and we need to restore that back again. We need to have services there so children can participate in their own community and be involved in things in their own community as opposed to going outside the community. So we definitely support the services that Dr. Robinson wants to put in there. And we know that she loves us and our heart is in it, and she has worked so hard. And our gratitude go out to her. We're now here to help her.
Well, one question that I had, one thing that I wondered was, if segregation was so bad for us, as some people say, why protect something that essentially, represents segregation? You want to answer that, Ms. Ferguson?
My basic premise is to say that though segregation was bad, there were some good things that happened with black people during segregation. Our teachers cared for us. They introduced us to many, many things. Yep. We had all types of programs that we participated in schools at the time that our children now are not being able to participate in. We had our plays that we produced. We had our marching bands. Those things are still in the school.
Right.
But they're different from what it was during segregation time. So though segregation was not all that it could have been and all that it should have been, a lot happened for us that we took care of our own at that time. And this is something that's not happening with our children right now.
And, it's interesting you say that, Mrs. Ferguson, because I went to the Roosevelt class in 1959. There was 60th anniversary a couple of weeks ago. And they had a 92-year-old teacher there who was talking about, how they used to, treat the kids. They'd be cussing at them and, grabbing them by the shirt and, talking mean, rough to them. But at the same time, all of the students who were there talked about how they also knew that those teachers cared about them, and they, prepared them and got them ready for what life was going to be like in, segregated America.
I'd like to piggyback on that. I was reviewing one of our yearbooks, just going through it, and I came up with this philosophy, and this was our teachers' philosophy. Their interest was that each student was to develop to their fullest potential. And this is their philosophy that is written in the book. They say, and I'm quoting, Roosevelt High School holds that education is based on the assumption that in our democratic society there is a social, educational, spiritual, civic, and vocational opportunity for everyone. Our curriculum seeks to help the pupil, and that's what they called us at that time,
right.
discover their own talents and develop them with the opportunities available to them. Our efforts are directed toward fitting the pupil to take their place in a changing society and thereby contribute to the welfare of their fellow man and themselves. So that was their philosophy, and they show that in their everyday participation with us. You know, they did the things
even though they
that
were cussing at y'all,
that they felt they needed to do to keep us safe,
yes,
to keep us motivated, to keep us focused.
And you know what was interesting, after all the discussions that I heard, one of the things that a student said was, I really miss what we had.
Yeah.
Even though.
Yes.
Yeah. And you agree.
Yes.
And you're shaking your head too, Dr. Robinson.
Oh, I know the stories.
Uh-huh.
I mean, I know the stories from listening to my parents, right? And so, I mean, but that I just wrote myself a note. Too bad we can't go back to those days. I mean, seriously, but.
And it's and you do hear that more now, that we're beginning to see as a community that perhaps, you know, integration wasn't the savior that it was pitched to us to be, because we lost so much in our communities, not just in the schools, but our businesses, our neighborhoods. They all changed. And not necessarily in a good way. So
correct.
Yeah. And that would be why a school would be a good place to host our history. Right?
Yeah. Absolutely.
Good segue.
So now, but Dr. Robinson mentioned earlier ARLIC, the African American Research Library and Cultural Center. Many of y'all's members from this alumni group are members of ARLIC. Yes. Y'all support what they're wanting to do too.
Oh, yes. Yeah. Wholeheartedly.
Yeah. Huh.
Yeah.
Okay. So now then, going forward, Dr. Robinson, what needs to happen in terms of trying to ensure that this goes on? Is there anything the community can do to support or to push this thing forward, or maybe donate some money?
Well, I think the answer is different depending on where you're trying to go, right? So if the plan is the plan that I've outlined, then we are starting to shift gears there, right? So if the plan is to maintain the building for future use, then a whole lot of money needs to be put on the table, you know. So
now you're on. You were just recently installed on the board of the Palm Beach County Historical Society.
Correct.
What about bringing them in? Do they have?
Why do you think I'm on the board of the Historical Society? Come on. It's a method to madness, right? But because even in their meetings, they're talking about all the fundraising they have to do for their museum and so forth, right? They're going to be interested in the museum itself, right? I mean, I guess we could imagine we could expand their vision to the larger facility, right? That would take work and time and relationship building. And they would have to decide that they're going to raise money above and beyond the needs of their site.
Right.
Right?
Right, but they certainly see some value in, chronicling our history as well.
You know that for a fact?
I'm asking.
I'm trying to help them see that they are not currently doing so.
Yeah. Oh.
Right, they're not.
Because Judge Bradley Harper's on their board too, I think. And, yeah. Oh, okay. So, all right.
Well, the other thing, Marion, other than the fact of getting noted that we're about 2 or 3 minutes from closing, this sort of go ahead, Ms. Cora, go ahead.
Come to the event. Help us, help you preserve Roosevelt. Thank you.
Okay, and finally, this whole discussion reminds me of having a big old church, and the members want to keep the old building, but so many members of the pastor said, let's build a new one. So they build a new one, they keep the old one, they make the old one where they keep the Sunday school and other kinds of things. So hopefully there might be some middle ground way to work this out, but everybody's great people. All of you love the community. I'm glad I live in Riviera Beach, so not my issue. Okay, Marion, I guess you're waiting for me to say the best is yet to come. Thank you.